San Diego has long been considered a military community. More Department of Defense dollars is spent in San Diego than in any other county, a major economic boost for the region. However, less is known about the toll multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan have on service members and their families. So joining me now to talk about what happens when the war comes home is KPBS reporter Alison St. John. Welcome, Alison.
Glad to be here.
Sort of give us some context, an idea of the numbers of military and veterans that are in the county.
There are about 100,000 plus of active duty based in San Diego County at this time. A little bit more than half of them are Navy, maybe 40,000 up on Camp Pendleton, about 10,000, almost 10,000 in Miramar, and then a little over 50,000 Navy at bases all around the Bay and downtown. And then in terms of veterans, we have 240,000 officially, although I've heard people say it's closer to 300,000.
So that's considerable. How has their presence kind of shaped the county?
Well, the Navy has been in San Diego since 1901, and it's interesting because SANDAG has figures about how many jobs the Navy was providing back in the early part of the last century. Right after the World Wars, obviously there's a big expansion of the Navy at that point. So in 1951, according to SANDAG, there were 203,000 jobs in the county, and 140,000 of those, well over half of them, were active duty. So it played an extremely important part in the job market back in the 50s. Since then, of course, the whole economy has diversified massively, and we now have, about 1.5 million jobs in the county. So you can see, 100,000 active duty. It's shrunk, but it's still significant when you consider that probably more than half of those are married with children.
But aside from the jobs, what other economic impact does the military have on this community?
Well, there's, of course, the defense industry is huge as well. We are the fourth largest recipient of defense contractor dollars in the country. So altogether, the economic impact of the military is significant. The DoD is estimated to have spent about $15 billion according to SD-MAC in the last official numbers that we've had in 2007, 2008. And right now we have billions more being spent on infrastructure and construction on the bases to upgrade their facilities. Okay,
so we sort of have a nice picture now of the military and what it means to the community. Let's talk about the military itself. We know that they've been very engaged in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there are lots of family members involved. What are some of the costs to the military of this kind of engagement?
Well, I think that's a very important question, Gloria, because that is much less easy to assess, and it is more of an invisible cost than the visible numbers. We can talk about the dollars. And the thing about the cost of this particular war on families is the repeated deployments, which I think nobody who hasn't experienced them can really quite grasp what a strain that is on a family. It's like a cycle of deployments, rather than in World Wars I and II when people saw their loved one go off and then hopefully come back and that was it. Now you have to adjust your whole family routine to this cycle where the loved one that's deployed is gone for maybe up to a year or more, comes back. You've just developed a family system whereby you can do without them. It's like a single-parent family. They come back, they're changed. They're changed in unknown ways. You have to adapt. You have to fit them back into the family routine, and then you have to be ready to let them go again. So some families have seen this cycle happen, up to half a dozen times. And that can be pretty stressful on a relationship.
I can imagine. Just, who's leading the family today? Is it mommy or daddy? Is daddy gone and mommy's the head of the family? What kind of problems does this show?
Well, when you look at the children, and I think this is one of the things that I'm thinking that maybe in the future years we'll see more research into the effects on children of so many of our active duty being gone on recycled deployments. In the education system, for example, it's quite hard on them. They have to move a lot, obviously, being in the military. But then there is that added pressure of not knowing whether, your father, your parent will come home. And there's really very little known about how that affects academic performance. And the school district is just now beginning, I believe they've been given a large grant to start to try to address that with some more support groups for military families.
You mentioned support groups. What other kinds of help is there out there for the families and for the kids and the adults as well?
There's a lot of help for military families, for active duty military families. And, you know, you have to credit the military for really doing more for families. They have excellent benefits. They have really good childcare. There are some problems, I would say, about expressing any kind of emotional difficulties, because even now there are military families who prefer to get their help off base. It can affect somebody's career if some emotional effects are, you know, talked about on the base. So that is still a bit of a problem. But the military is providing actually so many benefits for families that you could almost say there was a financial incentive to get married among young enlisted.
Okay. Well, Alison, thank you very much. And of course, you've been preparing a special page on our website at kpbs.org on the war coming home.
That's right. You can find all of our stories there.
Very good. Thanks again, Alison St. John.